same thing. I mean, it was like a 5-stone weekly, or that's like a £100 weekly. Just with no chance of doing anything. You know, I had no hope anywhere. Except, like, you know, I channeled everything into playing the guitar. And then the other things sort of followed on.
Eric Clapton is one of rock's most beloved guitarists. That turned him from a weakling into a man women adore. He's taken full advantage of that throughout his life. There haven't been many times where he wasn't romantically linked with someone. Some of these were short, private, and unremarkable relationships. Others were long and tumultuous. So which one was the strongest? Is Eric currently in a loving relationship? Keep watching as Eric Clapton reveals the love of his life. Alice Ombsy-Crombe. Alice was one of Eric's first partners. She was already used to being in the public eye as the daughter of the 5th Baron Harlech. They were in a relationship from 1968 to 74. They got engaged but were never married. They were both in the throes of heroin addiction, and tragically, she died from it. Their relationship had a major impact on Eric. He dedicated his compilation album Crossroads to her. She inspired many of his most well-known songs. Yvonne Kelly. Yvonne was part of Eric's inner circle when he was part of the band Derek and the Dominos. They eventually became romantically involved. She had a major impact on his music. She's part of what inspired the hit song Layla. Janis Joplin. Janis was one of the biggest female rockers of her era, so it's not entirely surprising she'd hook up with one of the biggest male ones. She reportedly ended up meeting Eric, and they began a brief relationship in the 1960s. Charlotte Martin. Eric met Charlotte at a party in England. She also had an extensive relationship with George Harrison. She dated Eric from 1974 to 78. He says she played a positive role in his life by helping him during the early stages of his recovery from drug and alcohol addiction. Jenny Key. Eric listed Jenny in his autobiography as one of his first serious love affairs. They met in the artist's hub of swinging London. He began dating her in 1967 when he was in the band Cream. Their relationship lasted for less than a year. Jenny was as much an influence on Australian fashion as Eric was on British music. She's also been linked to other major artists like Mick Jagger. Charlotte Weston. Charlotte and Eric were romantically involved in the 70s for less than a year. There aren't many details on their relationship. There are, though, about her relationships with other rock legends, including Mick Jagger and Jimi Hendrix. She created relationships between many members of the London music scene in her time. Cyrinda Foxe. Cyrinda was involved with many celebrities, including David Bowie and Steven Tyler. She began a relationship with Eric in 1974. They had a shared love of music and the entertainment business. She went on to appear in several music videos. She even wrote an autobiography, Dream On, Livin' on the Edge, with Steven Tyler and Aerosmith. Catherine James. Catherine was also linked with many famous figures of rock music in the 60s and 70s. She began dating Eric sometime in the 70s, though the exact timeline isn't clear. They kept their relationship low-key. She also wrote a book about her troubled upbringing and her rock star romances called Dandelion, Memoir of a Free Spirit. Gae and Eric met when he was in London for a concert in the UK. They started dating in the 1970s. He was at the peak of his career, so any romantic connections were major news. They were seen and photographed together. Gae is also closely linked to Superman actor Christopher Reeve. They dated and had 2 children together. She's had a full life as an actress, model, and real estate agent. Betty Davis. Betty was a well-established singer, and they began dating in 1972. She was working on her debut album. He was establishing himself as a solo artist. Their relationship only lasted a few months, but it had a major impact on Eric's music. She influenced all female funk artists after her, even though she retired in the 1980s. Pattie Boyd. Pattie and Eric were introduced when she was still dating their mutual friend, George Harrison. He became infatuated with her and wrote the famous song Layla about her. He heard a classic Persian poem called The Story of Layla and Majnun, a tale of longing for an unavailable woman, and it inspired him. George maintained his friendship with Eric even when the infatuation became clear. He even managed to joke about it.
How did I get to meet him?
No, but how did you meet? No, how did you decide?
We shared the same wife.
When Pattie and George separated in 1974, she began dating Eric. They got married in 1979. Their relationship was his most known and most tragic. He admitted to affairs while they were still married. He'd had a relationship with Yvonne Kelly, manager of Air Studios Montserrat, while both already had partners. They had a daughter named Ruth in 1985, but her identity as his child wasn't revealed until 91. Eric also admitted to domestic violence while he and Pattie were married. He said he was a full-blown alcoholic at the time. They also went through perhaps the worst tragedy anyone can. Eric and Pattie tried everything they could to have children together. They tried in vitro fertilization, but were faced with miscarriages. Eric had an affair with Italian model Lori Del Santo and had his child Connor on August 21, 1986. Pattie was devastated and divorced him in 1989, but that was only the beginning of the tragedy. Connor Clapton died at age 4 on March 20th, 1991. He fell out of an open bedroom window on the 53rd floor of a Manhattan apartment building. The grief was so powerful, it inspired one of Eric's most touching songs, Tears in Heaven. Paula Hamilton. Paula began her career in the 1980s. She rose to fame after appearing on the reality TV show Big Brother. She eventually had a close relationship with Eric. They met through mutual friends and bonded over artistic interests. Patsy Kensit. Patsy and Eric began a romantic relationship in the late 80s. They met at a charity event in London. She was an actress and singer. She was the lead vocalist for the band 8 Wonder and appeared on TV shows such as Emmerdale and Holby City. They had a brief relationship, ending without much hullabaloo. Valeria Golino. Eric dated Italian actress Valeria Golino in the late 80s. It seemed for a time they would overcome their cultural differences to make a lasting relationship. That only lasted until 1988. Carla Bruni. Eric met Carla at a party in 1989. He was recognized as one of the world's greatest guitarists. She was a celebrated model who also wanted to be a singer. It's unclear how long their relationship lasted, but it was full of ups and downs. Carla went on to marry Nicolas Sarkozy, the former president of France. Rosanne Cash. Rosanne is the eldest daughter of country musician Johnny Cash. She created a successful career of her own and became romantically involved with Eric in 1985. The affair didn't last long, but had a major positive impact on him. He said it was a wake-up call that helped him realize he needed to get sober. Sheryl Crow. Sheryl is a Grammy-winning singer-songwriter. Eric and Sheryl began a brief relationship in the 90s. They remained friends and co-workers when it ended thanks to a mutual sense of respect. When asked about her love life, she kept coy.
How many times have you been properly in love in your life?
Many. Yeah, many. With some very famous people and some very not famous people.
Melia McEnery. Eric and Melia revealed they'd been dating in 1999. They had their first daughter, Julie Rose, on June 13, 2001. They were married in a private ceremony in Surrey, England in January 2002. They've had 2 more daughters since then. Ella May was born January 14, 2003. Sophie Bell was born February 1, 2005. Melia often accompanies Eric to events, especially for charitable causes. She maintains a low profile, focusing on herself and her family. She and Eric seem to have a strong and loving marriage. Now it's time to hear from you. What's your favorite Eric Clapton song? Let us know in the comments section below.